Hi, welcome to Best in Tesla. In today's video, I would like to talk about a new electric SUV that is coming to market in 2022 from Asia. Yep, yet another one, but this one is actually not from China. But I would also like to talk a bit about the Chinese or the Asian invasion that could happen, because there is some good reasons to why it might still be very difficult for them to really penetrate the European and US market. But at the same time, we do have some compelling reasons to why they probably will come. So the question is, how fast and how big will they actually get? So let's check all of this out and let's dive right in. So let's start by revealing the new electric SUV coming out of Asia next year. And afterwards then talk about why all of these EV startups matters and why they do stand a chance in the EV market in Europe and the US. But why the road ahead might not be as rosy as someone like Sandy Munro's usually paint the picture of the Chinese EV invasion. So let's start with the new EV offering here. It is two new SUVs from a company called VinFast, and it is a Vietnamese car company, not Chinese. And firstly, some quick specs. They come in two sizes, the smaller VFE 35 and the big brother VFE 36. One thing that is quite cool is that they give a 10-year warranty, probably to help convert people over to this new untested brand, just as we saw with Kia that had some bad reputation back in the days for its quality and wanted to change people's perspective of Kia, and they helped that along with a 7-year warranty. And that definitely helped Kia to get some momentum here in Europe. But VinFast does not say what the kilometer warranty is. With the Kia it was 7-year or 150,000 kilometers, whatever came first. Here VinFast only says 10 years, but still a good move from VinFast nonetheless. They say we'll have 500 kilometers of range for the little one and a 0 to 60 in just 5.5 seconds. And the big one will have 680 kilometers of range and do a 0 to 60 in 6.5 seconds. So both pretty fast cars. Not Teslas, but still faster than, the ID.4. Unfortunately, they don't specify if the range is WLTP or EPA, or even worse, the NEDC, which it probably is, since most Chinese EV uses that standard and is the most optimistic of them all. So the spec sounds pretty good, but nothing too special. But they say they want to make EVs affordable. But unfortunately, they didn't mention any price yet, which is going to be very important, of course. But VinFast global CEO Michael Lascelles told Car and Drive that the company's first two EV models will initially be produced in Vietnam and be imported to the US and Canada, but that there is a plan to localize production in North America starting in the second half of 2024. So a good aggressive plan. Michael also detailed the company's European plans, which included launching these battery electric models in Germany, France and the Netherlands. Don't know why Norway is not on that list though. But he did not answer the question about what volume they were hoping for. Instead, he said, obviously everyone has ambitious volumes, including ourselves, but for me, most important is we position the brand right. Get our first customers very excited, very happy about that. That matters more than any sales volume. Well, it is of course important, but the sales volume will also be very important. But VinFast was founded in 2017 and according to a report from Reuters sold 30,000 vehicles in the home market of Vietnam in 2020. That same report said that the company has not yet turned a profit and suggested an initial public offering in the United States could provide funds needed to help get the brand off the ground. VinFast is part of the large Vin Group Imperia, shouldered by billionaire entrepreneur Pham Nhat Vuong. So they still have a long way to go, of course, but are already producing cars, electric scooters and electric buses, and are part of a bigger group that is backed up by billionaires. So it should be possible if their product is as good as they say it is and the price is just right. Reservations opens in the spring of 2022 and deliveries are set to be on track for fall 2022. Prices have not been announced, as I said, but Michael explains that one of the purchase options will involve a battery rental program, which will allow buyers to swap to a more advanced battery in the future when one becomes available. Just as we have seen with NIO, I still don't think this is such a good idea. How will they be able to scale up fast if every car they previously sold is going to want a new battery that should have been used to make more new cars? And they are already battery constrained even before this service. But time will tell if this is a good or bad idea. The company will focus first on the California market before expanding to other states and plans to eventually open as many as 60 showrooms in California. So they sound very aggressive and do not want to take it slow, but want to come in and make a big splash in the EV industry. So that is a nice attitude. So it will be very exciting to see what the price will be, because it needs to be more affordable than the Tesla Model Y or an ID.4 or Skoda Enyaq for that matter, if customers should consider this new brand over them, because it has the reputation of being made in Vietnam to fight against, just like the Chinese ones have. And with the import duties, the Chinese and Vietnamese EVs will probably not be much cheaper here in Europe, if at all. So will these Asian EVs be coming to the US and European and be successful? Well, they will not be a real threat to Tesla in my opinion, because Tesla is just so far ahead and they have all the performance specs, software, charging infrastructure and so on with the car for a pretty affordable price, especially compared to what you get. And Tesla is about to open a big factory in Berlin. That will be a big advantage for Tesla in Europe and an even bigger plant in the US. So I don't really think Tesla has to worry too much, because they are moving so fast. And one of the big reasons is also that Tesla's cars, even though they are not cheap, they are pretty affordable for what you get, and even the Chinese will have a hard time keeping up with that. Let me give you an example from a Chinese EVs that is already out here in Europe. In Norway, the NIO ES8, also a big SUV, but not all the specs are that great. It has a great 0 to 100 kilometers in just 4.9 seconds. That is pretty much on par with the Tesla Model Y long range that does a 0 to 100 kilometers in 5 seconds. But that power comes with a cost for the Chinese model though. It comes with two battery sizes, the 75 or the 100 kilowatt hours. With the 75 kilowatt hours you will only get 375 kilometers of WLTP range. The Model Y gets 507 kilometers of range with a 75 kilowatt hour battery. And the ES8 with the 100 kilowatt hour battery only gets 500 kilometers of VLTP range. So here the Model Y beats it, even with a 25 kilowatt hour smaller battery. The ES8 is also a bigger car, so maybe it would be better to compare to the Model X, but the Model X just destroys the ES8 on all specs, so the Model Y specs are much more comparable to the ES8. Also, even though the trunk might be a little over 100 liters more for the ES8 compared to the Model Y, but the NIO ES8 does not have a frunk, so the Model Y will be able to store just as much cargo, even though it is a bit smaller car. So I do think the comparison is much better with the Model Y than the Model X. And the charging speed of the NIO ES8 is only 120 kilowatts compared to Tesla's 250 kilowatt. So as you can see, the NIO's EVs can't really keep up with Tesla when it comes to specs, but it is a Chinese car, so it should be cheap, right? But that is unfortunately not the case. So both of these cars are available in Norway right now, so we can compare the prices we have up there, and the NIO's ES8 start at 519,000 Norwegian crowns. But that is without a battery. Yes, their prices are without batteries because they have this rent option so you can swap it later. But to compare this to a Tesla that does come with a battery, of course, we will of course have to buy the battery and not rent it, and will of course take the bigger battery because the smaller one is simply too far from Tesla's specs. So that will make the NIO ES8 end up costing 180,000 Norwegian crowns, without the driver assist system and the tow hitch that cost pretty much the same as Tesla's tow hitch and the enhanced autopilot. But the ES8 is about 150,000 Norwegian crowns, or 22% more expensive than the comparable Tesla Model Y. You can actually get the Tesla Model Y with not just enhanced autopilot but full self-driving software cheaper than the Neo ES8 without any enhanced driver assist systems, and still be about 70,000 Norwegian crowns cheaper. So the Chinese cars do not seem to be so affordable after all, after the import duties and so on. So just because they are cheap in China does not mean they will be cheap overseas. Even the smaller ES6 is more expensive than the Tesla Model Y in Norway. So that begs the question, why would anyone buy the Neo over the Tesla, when you get a superior car with the Tesla in pretty much every single way and will still pay less? Yes, this is going to be a big problem for the Asian automakers if this is going to be the case going forward, that they can't really get good specs without getting too expensive. So yeah, I don't think the Chinese will be a big threat to Tesla, also because Tesla is moving so much faster and they will be selling millions of EVs long before Neo, Xpeng and all the other EV startups will be at that level. And Tesla still has the best product for a better price. But there still is one thing that might help the Chinese to penetrate the US and European market anyway. Because someone like GM and Ford in the US or Volkswagen Group here in Europe are not moving fast enough, this could actually give an opportunity for the Asian car companies to get into the US and European market. Because we will see a big demand cliff for EVs over the next many years. There will be more demand than supply for EVs. We will for the next 5 to 10 years not be able to keep up with the demand for EVs. So if you can get a Ford Mach-E, for example, within a year because of a long waiting list, because of the low numbers they will produce over the next couple of years, and Tesla might be out of your budget, and then there is a very good built EV from China, or this one from Vietnam we just talked about, for an affordable price that you might be able to get within 3 or 4 months. Would you not buy that one? I personally would never buy an ICE vehicle again, so if my financial changed so much that I couldn't afford a Tesla anymore, I personally would not really care too much about that my car would be made in Vietnam. If the car is good to drive, has the ability to do over-the-air update and is a computer on wheels, I would just find the best EV I could find within my budget. Wouldn't care much about what it's called, Polestar, Geely, Neo, VinFast, Ford, GM, doesn't really matter, but that is just me personally, of course. But what is your opinion on this? Would you buy a VinFast SUV, for example, if you were in the market for an EV and this was the best you could get within your budget? Or if you had to wait a year for maybe a Skoda Enyaq or an Audi Q4 e-tron, but could get the Chinese model within 4 months for the same price, would you buy that one instead? I think some just might, but please let me know your thoughts about this in the comments below. So there are kind of two sides to the story of the Chinese invasion. A car like the Neo ES8 I think will not sell that many, since they are not producing that many of them still, but that can of course change, but also because it's just more expensive than a Tesla Model Y here in Europe. And Tesla will start producing that in the hundreds of thousands within Europe next year. So Tesla's lead is just unassailable in my opinion. The others would simply not be able to keep up, especially with the speed, agility and growth Tesla has. But we do see a lot of very affordable EVs coming alive in China, like the Geely EX3, a small SUV for just $9,000. Even if the price is double that in Europe or the US, it will still be a very affordable EV. So I really think these very affordable cars could do great in Europe. We don't just all drive around in expensive Mercedes and Audis, but cars like Dacia is also a popular brand, even though it only has a 4-star safety rating and is a cheap plastic car with 5 to 10 year old technology in them. But it is very affordable, and they have just made a very affordable EV. But yes, of course, you don't get much range and charging power and so on, but it is affordable. So I bet it will do very well as a city car or the family's second car, but they of course need to be able to produce them at scale. And I think the Chinese will also come with these kind of offering, because we know it will take years for the other big legacy automakers to do so, like Volkswagen, not before 2026. So there is definitely going to be a big demand for these cars, and China might be able to help with the supply. Also because they already have access to much more batteries than, for example, Dacia does. So Tesla is not going to be in trouble, but the other legacy automakers might, as we have seen since the competition came to Europe with hundreds of different EV models. Tesla's sales has only gone up, but all the others have pretty much gone down, as I just showed in my last news show. So I think Tesla will continue to grow in Europe and the US, not being slowed down by the Chinese. But the question is, will some of the other OEMs be able to close some of this demand gap, or will the Chinese come in hard and supply some affordable EVs to that demand cliff? Or will be able to deliver even the more expensive one but faster than the old legacy autos can, and therefore also get a slice of that pie? Because what NIO is bringing to the market right now is not gonna cut it. It's just too expensive. But as production scales up and prices come down, and the demand will still be very high, so maybe some will buy the ES8 because they can get it now and don't have to wait a year. And maybe in a couple of years it will be much cheaper, or BYD will come with some truly affordable EVs to Europe. So maybe China has a 5 to 10 year window right now to come in and try to capture some of this demand cliff with affordable good EVs. But we will of course have to wait and see, because they are simply not here yet in volume, and the Chinese EVs that are here are more expensive than a Tesla and will probably have a hard time in Europe, like we see with the Polestar 2. And it is Chinese, it's owned by Geely, and at the same price point as a Tesla Model 3 with similar specs, but has sold 7 times less units so far in 2021. So it is a real race here. Who can fill up this demand cliff, or this valley of death, as JPR 007 calls it, the fastest? Tesla will no doubt be one of the biggest players, but will the Chinese be able to come in and grab some huge market share? Well, let me know what you think will happen, and if you would buy a Chinese or Vietnamese EV, or what would it take for you to consider one? Let me know in the comments below. And thank you for watching, and until next time, take care out there and be nice.